Hey everybody, let me fix this up. Awesome, we have a ton of people tuning in. How is everybody? I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'll wait just a second till I see it pop up on my computer screen. That way I know I'm all in the right place. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna close that up so it doesn't eat up my internet that I need for live streaming. So what is everybody up to? Hey Lenora, awesome. Prudence says this is her first live chat. Woohoo! We got a bunch of new people who have like never signed up for any of my clubs or haven't taken any of my individual courses. Hey Margie. So I'm super excited to have a bunch of you on here. I don't know that the lighting is super duper great because where I film is kind of right here where the lights are. But I'm at the sewing machine here and I wanted to talk a little bit about the projects, about what's coming up, what's up, and go from there. Go ahead and let me know in the comments if you can hear me and see me fine. Hey, Audrey. Awesome. Okay, great. Now, if you're watching on your phone or a mobile device, sometimes if your phone is set to silent, you won't hear the audio. So you want to make sure that you have whatever mobile device it is set to, sound. So like if it was a phone, so that it could ring. Okay, great. Awesome. So I'm super excited to see all the pictures that you guys have been posting of all kinds of pouches. So some of you have made the size of the Trixie pouch, this bigger guy, but without the mesh pockets on the inside. Some of you made the woven panel on the big one. Some of you just left them plain, and you can see that obviously if you don't weave a panel to complete them, and I'm talking about the first project that went up 2 weeks ago now. My goodness, we're almost coming up on the third week. So we definitely are cranking out these projects. Hey, Wendy from Australia. I'm glad that you're able to tune in. I think it's quite early in the morning tomorrow for you there. So that's super cool. So if you're not weaving the panels, and if you want to weave the panels, remember that we're using the Wefty tool. These are the new ones we just got in stock. So they're on the website at craftygemini.com/shop. And they used to be green. So I guess now she's making them pink. You can see on the back there, the green ones. So Wendy says it's 7:30 where she is in Australia. Not too bad, right? The next day. So these are the two tools. And as you can see, I just have samples here. These larger ones were done with they're folded under the 1-inch strips, and you use the big one for that. And then to do the little 1/2-inch strips, I made this little guy. So, I mean, the prep work for the fabric weaving does take a while. It's kind of cool to use up the text or to give the project some texture. And I'll let you in on a little secret that sometimes I tend to do with the fabric weaving. If you have not your favorite fabric or ugly fabric in your stash, I know some people say that there's no such thing as ugly fabric, but I tend to have some fabrics that I prefer not to use and something that's going to show too much or that I'm not like super in love with. By the time you make them into these smaller strips, all you really see in the end is like the visual contrast of the dark and the light fabric choices that you use to weave them in and out. Or in this case, they're even smaller. So if you have some fabric that you don't really love, try it out with this, okay? All right, Liz says that she wants to try her hand on both, weaving it and doing it plain. Obviously, it's way, way quicker for you to do the ones that are plain, like this. But I also, if you recall from the video course that I posted for the Trixie pouch, for the second one, you don't always have to use quilting cottons. And I'm going to touch on this again in the next project course. So this Tuesday, around this time, I usually post the videos in the late afternoon for my time. We're going to be doing the everyday tote. I know a lot of you joined the club because you wanted to make this bag. And so this is, the other one is now like my everyday purse. So I don't have it here. It's inside the house with a bunch of stuff in it. But this is the other sample that I made. And I'm going to be making another one of these, obviously in the course that you're going to be watching. So know that on Tuesday, it's going to be live on the course page for you to watch. Now, one thing about it, I'm also touching on the topic of not always having to use quilting cottons. So if you think about what quilting cotton fabrics are, they're just medium weight cotton fabrics, medium weight woven fabrics, so they don't stretch, okay? And so if you go to the fabric store and you look in the apparel fabric section, you're probably going to find a bunch of different types of woven, non-stretch, medium weight fabrics. And so I want people also to think, because I know a lot of people want to make these projects, but they're not really quilters. So maybe you don't have a huge stash of fabric. You can repurpose fabric from clothes that you find at a thrift store. If it's like a 3XL men's shirt and it's a woven cotton fabric, You can cut that thing up and make a bunch of Trixie pouches or a bunch of these little things. And one of the things that I mentioned in a previous live chat was that these will make super cute projects for anybody. Imagine you use the fabric from somebody's clothes that passed away. Some type of little memento that you can turn it into a functional project to then gift to somebody else in the family for the holidays. That would be super cool. And so what I did with this one is that I showed you all how to use, I made this one out of a denim. It's called cotton denim, but it is a twill fabric, and it's just cotton twill. And you can see that it has kind of a little bit more rugged look to it. If I made this in brown or black or gray or something like that, it would look a lot darker and would have a great masculine touch to it. They don't always have to be super bright colors. I love bright colors. I know a lot of you love bright colors, but they don't always have to be. And sometimes it's fun to kind of think outside the box when we're looking to make gifts for other people. So the next one that I was working on is to show you this kind of combination. Cork fabric on one side, because we know this stuff is pricey, and then just quilting cottons on the other. So, I mean, small chunks can even be made up into this project. So say you had a denim. I mean, how much will a shirt cost you at a thrift store or at Goodwill? $1, $2, you know? And you can cut it up and use, say, a denim on one side because you're still adding the stabilizer, right? So whether it be foam, fusible fleece, fusible batting, regular batting, whatever it is, I think that would make it look super cool and totally different because people are not going to expect to see a little pouch made out of something that looks like apparel fabrics. Like they're going to know, oh, you didn't get that at a store because I've never seen anything like that before. Let me see real quick. Somebody here says, Colette says, how come my zippers seem a little off when making the full-size Trixie pouch? Somehow the ends end up uneven. Oh, I lost my, hold on. There are my comments. Okay. They end up uneven on one side. So maybe you're talking about the end. You guys know when we install the zipper, okay, one side is still connected because it's not a fully separating zipper, right? These are just regular zippers, like these guys, what we call craft zippers or handbag zippers, where there's a metal stop on the end that stops the zipper pull from flying off when it's open, okay? So usually on this end, it's easier on this side to cinch it in and stitch across the bottom when you're doing like the gusset panels, like stitching across down here. But on the loose side, you still got to push this back a little bit. And sometimes it can be tough to hold these steady. So what you may want to do is where the metal stop is on the other end, you see that? You can also, if you're starting off with a longer zipper, that's number one tip. It's going to be easier for you to work with, okay? Second of all, you can create your own stop. But instead of it being metal, because we don't want to be stitching through metal or running the risk of that, you can make it right underneath it or a little bit further, you know, where you're going to cut off the excess and get rid of the metal. You can make your own zipper stop, but just with a build-up of thread. So actually, I think I will use this zipper as an example, and I'm going to use something new today. So I got this cool thing. Let me see if I can make this thing work. Oh, wrong way. Is this cool or what? Oh my gosh. Okay, it works. Nope, the other way. Oh, maybe it's turned all the way. Okay, let's do it this way. And then, dun, dun, dun. What? Check me out, y'all. So I can get you a little bit closer here to show you what I'm going to do with the, to make a zipper stop. And this will apply to any project that you're working on, okay? So all I'm going to do is, of course, when the zipper is open, okay, it's going to be hard to keep them together. So you kind of have to just hold it closed, pretending that this is closed via the zipper pull. You see how they're together? You're not going to be able to get them interlocked like that, like the zipper pull does, but just hold them cinched in together. And sometimes if I'm making the stop further in, I can even hold my hands on the other side, okay? And then I will just place it under my presser foot, cinch them together, put the presser foot down as best I can, and try not to go super fast so you don't go way off the zipper. But let me slow this down. I just stitch, holding them on together on this side. You don't want to run the risk of putting your fingers under here, okay? And so then I just go past the zipper teeth as long as you're using a plastic or nylon teeth zipper, okay? Do not try to do this with a metal zipper because you're going to bust the needle. And then I'm going to reverse and I go back the other way, and then I go forward over them again, and then I reverse again, and then I go forward again, and just do that like 5 or 6 times. And what happens is, even if there's a little bit of opening in between the zipper teeth, there's thread buildup there. And the stitches are, even at the regular length, they're quite small, so you won't be able to get the zipper pull to fly off of it. So sometimes that will help if you do that beforehand. And I'll show you. Oop, there's the camera. So here is a thread buildup, and you can see that when I try to close it up, I can't go past the buildup of thread that I created there. So that's another quick and easy way to make your own zipper stop. And this will come in handy. Just keep it in the back of your mind, because sometimes you may be working on clothes, a handbag, something, and you're like, oh my goodness, the zipper keeps coming open on me. And then you can do that. Okay, so that's one way to create a zipper stop. So that might help you by doing that on the end before you turn it over and try to cinch across. Because if you have the 2 ends opening up on you, it sometimes can be a little bit tricky, okay? So that's one thing. Another one is to put clips every little which way that you can. If you want to, you can even, depending on how thick the products are that you're using for the stabilizer and the fabrics and all that, you may even be able to glue baste it and to help hold it in place so that your zipper doesn't move out of the way. But again, if that was your first one and it's a little bit off, it's not the end of the world. Obviously, the more of them you make, the better you're gonna get. And that's gonna apply to, you know, all your projects, okay? But that is one way to make a zipper stop on your own, that then when you come across this way with another like perpendicular seam or anything, you don't have to worry about going through metal because it'll go through thread, since that's all it is there, okay? Beth is asking, is it better to use clips instead of pins? So the reason I use clips on these types of projects is because mostly the bulk. If I try to put my fine glass head pins in something like this to hold some layers together, yeah, I can show you what they're gonna look like because I have plenty of them. Fully bent and good for nothing anymore. So when you're working with multiple layers and bulky fabric, so in this case, say your exterior fabric, if you're using either fusible fleece, fusible foam, non-fusible foam, just quilting through it, regular batting, unless you're using something super duper flimsy like the thinnest batting known to man, you're probably going to have to use, you know, clips or chunkier pins. And I don't really like to use chunky pins because the majority of the time that I'm using pins is when I'm making garments, and I'm usually using, you know, thinner fabrics, more lightweight fabrics than even the quilting cottons. Okay. Hey, Susie. All right. So that is the Trixie pouch. I am amazed to see how many of you have been cranking this thing out. And so another little demo that I wanted to do for you. Let's see. Rhonda says, is it okay to mix and match different weights of fabric? I'm a huge fan of that. And as you can see, and I'll post pictures in the Facebook group and stuff after I'm done with this one. Now after I finish the other mesh panel. So I'm working on this one for this. And you can see, I mean, if you've ever touched cork fabric before, it's quite thick plus foam, okay? It's nowhere near as thick. I mean, the fabric to foam is not as thick or as stiff as cork to foam. So yeah, I'm mixing and matching fabrics right here, as well as mixing and matching exterior to lining fabric. So here I had the cotton twill apparel fabric on the outside. As long, again, go for a medium weight woven fabric. You can make it with a ton of things, but I'd rather you not be struggling trying to stabilize the fabric, or it's stretching on you because it's cut across the bias here to attach the zipper. There's a lot of little things that can go wrong. So instead, if you are going to use apparel fabrics, go for something that's medium weight. Lightweight would work too, but not like super duper light, because you're still going to be adding, you know, whatever the foam body of the exterior is going to be. So you can use that. And notice I'm using that thicker fabric on the outside, and then I just have quilting cotton on the inside. So you can totally mix and match fabrics, okay? It just depends on the look that you're going for, the texture, and really what you're going to be using it for. If you're going to be putting a lot of, say, essential oil bottles in it, and if they bust and crack, if you make it too thin and a bunch of stuff is going to come out of there, I would probably, you know, if you're going to have a lot of glass bottles like that, I would probably go with thicker fabrics, thicker batting in the middle, foam, things that are a little bit more protective, right? So you can always customize your projects and the supplies that you use based on the final result of what you're wanting, okay? So, okay, awesome. And I'm seeing your chat comments come in, so this is fun. So one thing I wanted to do was to show you, let me see. Mary here from Katy, Texas. What is your usual seam allowance for the entire bag, or does it matter? So I usually will use 1/4 inch seam allowance, but I'm quite flexible on that. Two different things. One, a lot of beginners that don't start off as quilters tend to struggle with 1/4 inch seam allowance, especially working with bulky fabrics and when you're going around a curve. So if you're a beginner and you want to try the 1/4 inch, my recommendation to you would be, one, go with a handbag zipper. Notice this is a 4.5, what we call a 4.5 handbag zipper, and this is the regular number 3 nylon zipper. And I cover this in that video course for the Trixie pouch, and I just show you. You see how the zipper tape for the bigger one, for the handbag zipper, is wider than the skinnier one? If you sew 1/4 inch in from here, you're gonna be mighty close to those zipper teeth. So if it's your first time stitching in a zipper, most definitely go skinnier on the 1/4 inch, or get a handbag zipper so that you have more room here. And you can always substitute a regular zipper for a handbag zipper in any of these type of projects, because all this is gonna do is add a little bit more width to how wide the pouch can open here, all right? And it's gonna give you more wiggle room, because 1/4 inch in from this edge is not gonna be that close to here. So you could be a little bit inconsistent or a little bit off, and you still probably will be okay that you're gonna get the zipper attached and you're not gonna stitch through the zipper teeth, okay? Because then obviously you stitch through there, and you saw what we did earlier. By stitching through zipper teeth, you create a thread, a stop. So you won't be able to open your zipper if you have that, like, a bunch of like random stitch-ons to the zipper teeth, okay? So that really won't work. So handbag zippers, and we have these for sale on our website. If they're sold out, I think we still had some colors because we have them in a bunch of colors. I'm going to be restocking them tonight because I just ordered several hundred in yesterday in a ton of different colors. So if you're looking for the handbag zippers, I'll be posting those up, and then we're working on putting together the kits for the upcoming projects. So we do have the mesh restocked. Okay, so I just restocked it last night on the site, and it's craftygemini.com/shop. You'll see the mesh there. We have it in a bunch of different colors. A couple colors already sold out today, but I have more coming in. All right, so if you don't see the color you want, you can go ahead and grab some of the ones that are there now, and we'll be restocking it as soon as we get it back in stock. Let's see. Oh, so we measure 1/4 inch from the edge of the zipper in and not from the teeth out. That's right. So usually 1/4 inch in. And typically, if you're using a zipper foot on your sewing machine, from where the needle position is to like the edge, like you're using this to guide in the seam allowance, it's usually about 1/4 inch, because you can't really go more than that on a regular zipper, okay? I mean, maybe 3/8, but sometimes when you get too close, even without going onto the zipper teeth, because there's not enough room on either side of the teeth, sometimes it can be really tough to open the zipper, because notice what happens. When you open the zipper, it's separating the teeth. So the sides of the metal slider have to have a little bit of room to go on each side. So if your fabric is stitched up to right there, you might not be bothering the zipper teeth, but you're definitely going to be in the way of the slider to get past it. So that's what I'm saying. Don't get too close to the teeth. And don't think that if you're close and didn't go over it, you're like, phew, you got to leave a little bit of room there for the slider to go up and down, okay? It's okay not to stick the zipper for this project, right? I'm not sure what that means. It's not to stick, I'm not sure. But remember, and one of the things too that might help some of you beginners is when I stitch it down, I'm able to kind of maneuver this around a curve. But you see that it's not that pliable either. So if you're having a hard time running the edge of the zipper tape along the edge of your fabric nice and even, remember those snips that I make into the bulk after the zipper has been stitched? Do it before. Make some really tiny 1/8 inch snips into the zipper tape, and that, not too far, remember, because you don't want to go past where your stitches are going to be. So just like that much. I mean, 1/8 inch, every 3/4 inches or so. And then when you go to line it up, you know, they'll spray out a little bit more, making it a little bit easier for you to curve around. So these are all different little tips and tricks. And now remember that a lot of this stuff and how you get better at it, one is going to be practice, but two, it's also your skill level, your motor skills, and how you're used to holding and manipulating things in your hands evenly. And then also the sewing machine that you have. So every sewing machine is slightly different in the sense that their center needle position, the default might be in the center. Some machines default to the left needle position. So like you have to know where you need to put that needle on your sewing machine so that you can guide your projects and follow the seam allowance designated for that specific project, okay? So there's a lot of different factors that come into play, but I'm just trying to give you some tips and tricks here that if you know you had that problem of running the zipper along the curve, make the snips before instead of after. That will also help release some of the stiffness in that zipper tape, okay? Oh, so you were asking if you had to top stitch it. You don't. I have top stitched it before, like here, really close to the edge. I saw some people in the pictures top stitched, but you don't have to. I find that if you give it a good press, it doesn't matter. And I've done it for both. I've left it like that on whether I use fusible, or excuse me, whether I use the foam interfacing on the exterior or batting or even fusible batting. If you give it a good press, you don't really have to top stitch. So if you're someone that knows you can't really get really consistent top stitching, or you already know your sewing machine and you're thinking there's no way it's gonna give me consistent stitches through all that bulk, skip the step. You don't really have to. You can see this one looks super cute and there's no top stitching on it, okay? So that's optional. All right. Okay, good. Okay. All right. Yeah, Lisa says I'm so bad at stitching a curve, and it takes practice, you know, and then if the machine stitches over like a chunkier bit, it might go really small stitches, and then when you get to a smoother part, it jumps to bigger ones. So if you're using a fabric, say the fabric is dark like this, a dark fabric, and you're thinking, oh, I might want to top stitch. My recommendation would be, you better make sure you use purple thread for that top stitching, because what is going to happen? If I use a black top stitching thread, every little bobble and tightness and shrinkage in the stitch, because I'm going over a bulkier section, and then when it jumps and I'm pushing it through the machine and I'm trying to help it out and then it flies, then my stitches are going to be bigger. All that kind of stuff is going to show up beautifully right here where you probably don't want to see it. So if it's not purple, stay away from it. So in the case of doing a dark fabric on the exterior, make sure that you're using, you know, a matching thread. Now, if you're using a super busy fabric on the exterior, go for it. It might be a good way for you to practice. And if you're giving it as a gift to someone who doesn't sew, they're not going to see that. How much stuff do people buy that's made in China and they don't, you know, when we inspect it, we're like, are you kidding me? Somebody bought this, but they don't know no better. All right. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, Tammy says there's 92 people on. There's a bunch of you on here. So Beth says, what makes the zipper wavy when it's stitched? One reason can be if you don't make any snips before or after. Sometimes if it's a little wavy, you can just snip in and it releases it. The main issue that will get you a wavy zipper is the inconsistent seam allowance. If you stitch in, and this is a zipper tape, and you catch here, and then you go a little bit bigger and then a little bit less, when you turn it out, that zipper tape, not all of it is exposed consistently. So like there's more in the seam allowance and some sticking out and then more in the seam allowance, and that is going to, because it's stiff and rigid, right? The zipper tape and then the teeth, it's going to be like super wavy because it's like the zipper's still trying to come out, but more of it is sewn in some spots than there are in others. So you got to practice sewing consistent seam allowances, okay? Hi, Biz. Awesome. All right, so I wanted to show you what you would do if you wanted to make a little bit larger pockets. Let's see, do any of the projects use embroidery? I don't have an embroidery machine. Is there any way to accomplish this? So none of the projects use embroidery. Embroidery really is going to be optional. None of these projects are in the Hoop projects, which are projects that are only made in an embroidery machine. I don't have any of that because obviously not everybody has an embroidery machine. But these are great projects to embroider on, whether it's hand embroidery or machine embroidery. So say you wanted to do a monogram on here, or even just stitch on a patch or make a patch on the embroidery machine and then attach it. You can totally do that. This is a great base or foundation to hold embroidery, monograms and things like that. So if you're someone that has, excuse me, an embroidery machine, or you have a sewing machine that does embroidery features, excuse me, and I didn't bring my water today. I usually have a drink in here with me. But you can totally embellish these and personalize them to whoever you're giving them to. So that's another way to do it. If, say, you have a yard of fabric, how many of these you think you can make out of a yard of fabric? A ton of them. But not everybody wants the same exact project or same exact gift, right? So if you had an embroidery machine, you could totally embroider people's initials, monograms, or a little design of stuff that they like that's a little bit more personal. So that's another option. But no, none of these projects require an embroidery machine, but you can embellish these any way you want to with an embroidery machine. Okay. So here's one panel that I've done already. This is the one that's going on the, this guy, the cork one that I'm making. All right. And now don't be afraid to mix and match colors. I mean, I'm using aqua here. That's not really, well, I guess it's here, but orange too. I'm a huge fan of a lot of bright colors, so I can mix and match whatever I want to. Okay. So the next panel is this one. Okay. Liz is asking about a separate video for vinyl covering on fabric. Liz, we're going to get to that with a step-by-step way to do it when we get to the Lunchbox video course in the club. Okay. All right. So yeah, somebody's asking about the cork fabric in the main club page, or when you go to, I think, either one of the projects. I link you with my affiliate link to my friend Sarah's online shop where she sells cork fabric, and you can get it in, I want to say, like 37 different colors or something crazy like that. So it's on the homepage here, but I'll include it to the Facebook group later tonight if you're on there. That way you know where to go. All right, so I have another panel, the other side, that's going to go with this guy, okay? And so I wanted to show you what you would do if you wanted to make the pockets a little bit bigger for something else. I saw somebody post a picture today of her Trixie pouch, and she had like a medicine bottle in there and something that was a little bit wider. So I wanted to show you that. Let me grab the mesh chunk. Okay. So it's this one, and I have this one. And if you recall from the course, we marked at every 2.5 inch increment, okay? So let's work the magic again. Whoop, wrong way. All right. Let me see. Ah, my ripped jeans. Okay. All right, so the first bit, I'm just going to line up on the edge and just stitch down on the first 1 inch line, right? And yep, I have my straight stitch selected here. So I'm making sure that the bottom is lined up with the bottom mark that I lined. Lenore's asking how much is the mesh. Each pack is $5.99, and it includes a piece of mesh that measures 18 inches, so half a yard, by 54 inches. And I think I calculated it out. You can make 9 of these Trixie pouches with 1 pack of mesh. All right. So I backstitch at the end. Perfect. All right. So for the size that I did the math for y'all, it works out. Oh my goodness. Seriously. I stitched it on with the thing backwards. This is the beauty of live TV. Oh, I tell you. I can't see my marks now because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. And where is my... And then a seam ripper. We always got to have seam rippers handy, which I do. All right. I backstitch, so give me a second here. And I would normally just yank this, but since the mesh has holes in it, I don't want to rip the mesh. I would usually just go boom. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so make sure that you have the side of the mesh panel that you marked up. Okay, which I almost did it again, ridiculous. So then I'm going to place it here and do the same thing again. Okay, now the next one, if you recall with these measurements, I tried to keep them as simple as possible. So the next one, you're basically taking where the mark is on the fold over elastic and making it match up with the line that's underneath. So I'm going to do that first one just as it was designed to be first. And then I'll show you in the next one how you can adjust. And it's one of the reasons that I made the panel a little bit longer than what you actually need. So you do have a couple inches there of wiggle room that you can adjust. Okay? To make some of, say you make this one smaller, and then you have, okay, I have three little bottles I got to put in here that are bigger ones. So instead of just grabbing the next mark to come here, all you got to do is just come over a little bit more. Don't come too far over because you don't want to be short here. But a way for you to audition it is to just put a pin right there and say, okay, I want this one to be a little bit bigger, this guy to be a little bit bigger. And so instead of bringing the line right to the mark underneath, just bring it in a little bit further so that you're over by 1/4 of an inch. And if you think, this is kind of weird to have my head cut off. Here I am. So if you think that it's a big deal, excuse me, if you think that the pockets are too small, don't increase it by like 1/2 an inch. You're going to have a massive pocket. Even an 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch is going to give you a lot more room in there because remember, we have elastic on the top and that stretches. And then the mesh also has a little bit of give on its own. Okay? So let's do a bigger one here just to begin with. So instead of marking it on the line, I'm going to come over another 1/4 of an inch just by eyeballing it so that the mark on my fold over elastic is just a little bit in. All right. So someone's asking about free motion quilting. I have a 7-part video series where I walk you through a bunch of really good exercises for you to get a little bit more comfortable. But free motion quilting, really, there's no secret to it. You just have to practice. And by practice, I mean hundreds of hours of practice. Some people just take to it a lot easier than others, but you have to think about if you're doing sit-down free motion quilting, this is like the needle here with the thread is a marker, and I would be holding a sheet of paper. So if you were a doodler as a kid, chances are that you probably take to free motion quilting really easily because we're kind of just used to, and I was a doodler as a kid. I always doodled on all my notes when I should have been taking notes in class. But I just would doodle and like let my pen go wherever it wanted to. But when you sit down at a sewing machine to do free motion quilting, it's the complete opposite. It's like if somebody was holding the marker or pen for you and you're moving the paper. So you know how when you first start learning how to drive and you want to go reverse? For those of you that live in the city and don't drive, you might not know what I'm talking about. But when you're trying to go reverse, that you go the way that you think you're going, then you stop and you're like, oh yeah, opposite direction, the other way. It's kind of like that. Because on a sewing machine, when you're trying to do free motion, if I need to stitch a line this way, I need to push the fabric away from me. So it's opposite, okay? So if I want to do a line that goes that way, I don't go that way. I have to go the opposite direction so that the pen that's being held here, the needle and thread, goes in that direction. So a lot of free motion quilting is simply going to be you practicing and basically building up the memory, the muscle memory of doing everything backwards for every single shape that you want to do. But it is helpful to start off with just basic shapes. So if you go to YouTube and type in free motion Crafty Gemini, the playlist will pop up, and I definitely recommend that you watch all those videos because they're really good. I have a lot of students, even the ones that I teach free motion quilting to in person, that go back and refresh with some of those exercises, okay? All right, Tanya Lee is asking, does the Trixie Pouch template automatically open in PDF file? Her measurement is not matching up. So here's something about PDF documents. When you click open the file to download, it's going to open up, but it's not in Adobe PDF Reader. It's just in a browser. And oftentimes when that happens, it will change the dimensions of the Trixie Pouch. So because this is quite a simple project, if it's 1/8 of an inch off, it's not going to make too much of a difference. But if you are wanting to do more PDF patterns in things that matter more, like garments and things that have to fit something, what you want to do is download the file. So when it opens up, go to the top right and look for where it says save to the computer or download so that it actually downloads the file itself to somewhere on your computer. Then go back and locate where it was, where it has, you know, depends on your computer and where you have your downloadable files automatically set to default to. Then you're going to want to click the file from wherever it's at. Say it goes to your desktop. click to open it in Adobe PDF Reader. Once it's open in Adobe PDF, then yes, then you can set your printer scale to 100 and you shouldn't have a problem printing it out from there. But if you click on the file, it's going to open and you can just press print, but it's not going to be to scale because sometimes the browsers kind of distort it a little bit. Okay. So now let's have a look at these two and wrong way. Sorry, this is my first time with this remote, but I'm liking it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section if you want to see more demos and things like that that allow me to talk to you and then also go to the sewing machine or whatever other machines I'm featuring. Okay, so here's the little guy. You can see how much flatter it is. There's still room in there to put in, let me see, one of these types of spools, the long narrow ones. You can put those in there. That's fine. Okay. And then in my chunkier one here, now keep in mind, don't just measure it like this. If you want to measure it for true accuracy, make sure that you cinch this down the same way that you will when you go back across the bottom here to close it off. Because remember, this ain't a pocket if it's open on the bottom. So sometimes we do things like that where we cut ourselves a little bit short from a step. And then once it's cinched down, you're like, oh, it actually didn't work. So remember that you pleat it by putting your finger here, pushing down in the center and letting the pleats kind of go to the sides. But you can see that when I made it bigger, there's a lot more fabric to cinch in at the bottom there. So keep that in mind also. But once that's there, you can see that I have a big chunk here of space. And I'm trying to see. I can't believe I have no pins here. All my pin, I was picking up a bunch of pins earlier and my pin cushions are all over there. Let me check the floor. I bet you there's one. There has to be a pin on the floor. Come on, floor. Yeah, there is. Let me grab one. Oh, that's hilarious. With a bunch of thread. And I swept up here a couple days ago. All right, so let me put this pin here. And I'm going to weave in through the fabric several times because remember, the mesh has holes in it. So you got to go like in, out, to give me a better representation of what the actual pocket is going to look like once it's stitched at the bottom. So now, okay, here I have this. Do something like this first, and then do this. Who said they see clips on the floor? There's a bunch of clips. I see a needle over there and 3 clips. That's it. So see, this chunkier one fit, and I still have room in there. Okay, but just so you know, I've already tested these spools. Even if you just use my regular marks, these would still fit in there also. So if you're doing this custom to a specific bottle or tool or whatever it is that you're putting in here, this is the way that I would want you to do it. Because we're only stitching down the partitions here with straight stitches, you can also use longer straight stitches and baste it, put a pin at the bottom, and then test the bottle or whatever you're putting in here before you go in and, okay, solidify that that's the spacing that you want. All right? So that's that. I know we have a good time on these chats, don't we? So then you would just continue to do the same thing, and I will put this thing back down. So let me finish doing these panels because I want to get this guy done today too. Maybe not the whole thing, but at least to get this done. And remember that you can always do one bigger, then go back to the regular measurements on the next ones because you're still going to have some left at the end. Biz says the live chats are amazing. I think I'm okay with all the craziness that happens because I can't hear y'all laughing at me. It's cool though. All right, one more here and then just one more. And this looks like it might be a little bit kind of a mission to do and to stitch and stuff, but it's not. They're super quick to do. The mesh is super lightweight. It's easy to see through. I mean, I made these marks last week and I can still see them, even though they're a little bit already gone because it's a water and air soluble pen. But I can still see through my marks, so I don't have to be fussing and fighting too much with any of these. And remember that we have the mesh back in stock, so if you didn't get any, check out the shop, craftygemini.com/shop, and you can see the colors that we have left. I just reordered the most popular colors. A couple of them sold out. I think the pink and the purple sold out just a little bit like earlier this afternoon, but I've ordered a bunch more of those. Now you can see, even though we made a bigger one at the start, okay, and then I went and just kept the same measurements for the rest of them. And it's also cool to just play around with the dimensions. Just make some smaller, make some bigger. And that way, whoever you give it to can do whatever they want with it, right? Can fit in whatever they want. If it's somebody that has a lot of lipsticks, then maybe you want to do a bunch of really narrow ones if they're going to fit those in there, okay? Yay! Liz is joining us from the UK. She says she loves that the live chat's being at a time that she can join in. Good, good, good. I'm glad you're able to tune in. I find that this time works for a lot of people. So here we have the other panel completed, and you can see I still have some room here, okay? So if I wanted to make this big one and the two more in the center big and maybe have the two outer ones smaller, you still have plenty of room there. Because remember, I only gave myself an additional 1/4 inch. And so if I gave this one a 1/4 inch and this one a 1/4 inch more, that's only going to take up 1/2 inch more from what I have. And I'd still have a little bit of excess that I could cut off. Then, of course, you know, you would take your scissors or your rotary cutter and trim away the extra. Ta-da! Super easy peasy. And remember, the trickiest part I find about this is that the line here, okay? Make sure that you're measuring that mesh on there because it's really easy to like pull the mesh further down and then your pockets are going to be lopsided. So that's why it's important to mark that line first, okay? And then do that. But boom, this is done already. So these guys are going to get sewn together, and I'll do that right now because I feel like I'm getting closer to finishing it. And I'll see if anybody has any other questions for me before I do my giveaway. We've been on for about 40 minutes or so. I usually plan for like 30 to 45 minutes. It just depends, you know, on the amount of questions or how many people have tuned in. And so here, I'll do my 1/4 inch seam across the bottom. This is gonna look super duper cute. I think so. Yay! All right. I think that's gonna look good. What do y'all think? Oh man, this might be mine with cork. Hey. But yeah, oh, and another thing, somebody was asking, remember about the embroidery machine, okay? Cork actually is awesome to embroider through. A lot of people think it's like cork and it's going to crumble and fall apart, but it doesn't because it's fabric backed. So I've actually embroidered a ton of stuff, and I have a tutorial on, what did I do? It was a key fob where I embroidered men's names on the key fob on a strip of cork, on like a 1.5 inch strip of cork or something. And if you do have an embroidery machine and you want to embroider through cork, it's the bomb. Try it. Yeah, this is the navy color. It's like a, not navy, it's like blue something. But look how cool. The texture, the feel of it, it's super smooth. It's what they call like vegan leather because it's eco-friendly, it's sustainable, it's harvested from a cork tree in Portugal. And I buy it from my friend Sarah because she sells the best stuff and it comes straight from Portugal to her. So if you want to purchase it, definitely use my affiliate link that I've included on the main page here of the club. And I always include it on each page for each project also, because pretty much all these projects you can feature cork in one way or another. Okay. All right. So let me scoot this back a little bit. Super cool. I like love my little remote thing. Okay, so I'm glad that worked for y'all. And I'll definitely plan to do some more demos and stuff. Pauline says, I made a small over-under, but used lightweight fleece and found it tricky to do. Should I use SF101 on both lining and outer fabrics? So that's a good question. And that's cool that you know that you had a tough time with that. If you have a tough time with bulky, say like on the little one, if you use foam on this and you really are struggling, then don't do it to yourself. You can use the SF101. On mine, I did use SF101 on both sides, and it's still sturdier on the one side because I have so many strips of a woven panel. So this definitely has added some more bulk kind of, you know, and stiffness, not super stiff, but it's added more body to the finished little pouch. But you can see that I just used the SF101. There's no batting in here. So yeah, that's a good tip, and that's something good to mention. If it's too bulky for what you're using or what you're used to using, you know, some battings can be super thin and that might work fine for you, but some battings are super, super thick and chunky and it would be too small to be fussing with so much bulk, especially on a curve, okay? So yeah, you can totally use SF101 because the smaller the project, the more body it's gonna have on its own. So this guy can still stand up on its own, okay? Even though it has nothing. But again, I have a woven panel on the front too, so that definitely helps, okay? But yeah, that's up to you. And you can see that on this little guy, you definitely wouldn't have to top stitch, especially if you use only the SF101 or the woven fusible interfacing. I use the Fashion Fuse stuff by Bolzel. That's what we sell in our shop too. But either one, you know, they're just 100% cotton with some 100% cotton woven fabric, like a really, really thin muslin, and they have adhesive on one side. So that's what you fuse to the back of the fabric, for those of you that are wondering, okay? All right. But I mean, these two have totally different weights. You know, the twill on this is already thick, plus this one I did with foam, so it's even thicker. So it just depends on the look. But as far as the functionality of the project, totally doable either way. And Nancy says, usually a walking foot is really helpful. That definitely is helpful on some machines. So again, this comes down to you knowing your machine, what it likes and what it doesn't. Some people have really, really fancy and expensive machines that just cannot handle bulk. Some people have really inexpensive, just base mechanical machines that don't do well on stretch knits, but they handle thick wovens really, really well. So you have to know your machine. And really the only way to really know your machine is to sew more projects. So you know what where you run into problems and where you don't, you know? And I see this more and more because I teach in person too. And a lot of my students will bring their own sewing machine. So every time I see a machine coming in, I'm like, here we go. Because you have no idea what, you know, the service condition of these machines are, what settings people have them set to of what's going to work for what's the majority of the stuff that they sew. And so every machine is going to be a little bit different. And so it's important to spend the time with your machine, right? I'm giving you permission to buy more fabric so you can sew more things so that you can learn your machine. This is a research investment in your own machinery, okay? So definitely. But if you have a walking foot for your machine, or you know if your machine is a high shank or low shank machine, you can find generic walking feet on eBay, even on Amazon, and get one for your specific machine. And then play around with bulky layers and just stitching through them. If you see that it helps you a ton, then you're like, boom, I know whenever I sew bulky projects, I have to throw that walking foot on. I'm lucky that my Jukies don't have that problem. I can sew, you know, 8 layers of super thick denim on here, and I can also sew a really lightweight stretch knit fabric when I'm making garments. And I don't have to use a walking foot either way. That's not the case for all the machines I have, right? Some of them definitely need a walking foot to get through some stretch knits or to help them get through the bulk of chunkier layers, okay? So it all just depends. And so I think it's important to like sew more and know your machine versus seeing what somebody else did online and they had no problems, but you don't have the same machine. You might not have the same setup as them. So spend the time with your machine. That's a question every seller asks. There's no easy answer. It depends where you live, how much money in your area, and what materials you use. I'm not sure what that, maybe somebody asked how much to sell them. Not sure. Okay. Oh, so Nikki Reed says that she uses her Singer vintage machine for bag making. Now, I have a vintage machine from 1938, and that thing, people like are on the market looking for this specific model. It's a Singer 6618. The 18 means that it's been converted to electric from treadle. So it's from 1938, and that thing sews through like 13 layers of denim like butter. It's the quietest machine I own. But it also has its downfalls, right? Because it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that I'm used to, like automatic thread cutter, or the fact that when I take my foot off the foot pedal, it don't stop sewing. So if you know me, you know I sew super fast. And so when I sew super fast on that one, first it takes time for it to ramp up like and when I take my foot off the foot pedal, it's like it still keeps going. So you gotta I have to like sew a lot on it to get back into the feel and the vibe of the machine of knowing how far before I get to the end of a seam I need to stop. Otherwise that thing is gonna keep sewing because it doesn't stop immediately. So again, I have to play a little bit on every single machine when I get back into using. And I have a lot of different machines at home and in my home studio, or excuse me, in my sewing studio in town. So every machine is going to be slightly different, even among the same make or manufacturer of machines. So you just got to spend time with it. And if it helps to take pictures or jot down notes of what you were working on and how it worked for that, do it. Okay. Ooh, Nikki says she has a 1921 treadle and a 1951 Centenary 201K. I think that's a Singer 1201. She says she's collecting them now. Yeah, that's a problem. For me, every time I see a, what are they called? The little featherweights. I'm like, I need a featherweight. I don't have a featherweight. And then I'm like, no, you don't need a featherweight. But yeah, if you do have access to a vintage machine that's all metal parts, which that's what they were back then, those typically, if you're having trouble on a newer computerized machine sewing through bulky layers of your projects, then take out that old trusty vintage machine, because usually when they're all solid metal parts, they will go through a ridiculous amount of bulk with no problem. Of course, you want to make sure that you're using the right needle size as well. So make sure you put like at least a 90-14 in there. I will say 90-14 is recommended for bulk, but I've definitely been known to keep an 80-12 universal and crank out projects that have foam and cork and all that. But again, depends on the machine. If you're sewing and the machine is struggling and it just breaks the needle, change the needle to a bigger needle. If it's still struggling, then you know it's the machine and not just because it was a smaller needle. Okay? All right. Awesome. Hey, Linda, tell Ray Lynn I say hi. Awesome. All right, so I think that's going to be it. I'm going to do 2 giveaways. One is going to be random. I'm going to pick from these comments here. So go ahead real quick and type in your full name, or, you know, your name and where you're tuning in from. I'm going to scroll through my comments kind of like a spinning wheel, and wherever I land, that's going to be one giveaway for people that are tuning in live. And then I'm going to go to the membership list for the new bag club, and I'm going to randomly pick another person to win the second giveaway, and that way we can make it a little bit more balanced and even for those club members that weren't able to join live but who are probably watching this on the recording. Hi, everybody. All right, so here is what I'm giving away today. They're kind of like mini Trixie pouch kits. So I put a chunk of a double-sided fusible batting in here, which is quite lofty, but it makes for a really cute Trixie pouch, especially if you use the actual bigger template. But of course, this stuff can be used to make the smaller ones too. Then you're getting 2 chunks of mesh in here. And what I did was I took 1 pack of the mesh and cut it in half. So you have 2 colors. There's a black and an aqua, and they measure 18 inches by 27. So you can still get a bunch of pouches out of it. So the 2 chunks are the equivalent of 1 full pack of mesh, but in 2 different colors. And then 3 yards of fold over elastic in these 3 colors. So these are the 2 little mini Trixie pouch kits that I'm giving away. One is going to be for one of you all tuning in live, and one is going to be for one of you all who are watching the recording. Okay. All right. So I'll give it another couple seconds because I see people are still tuning in, writing where they're from. Wow. Woodstock. Hey, Lynn! I met Lynn last week when I was at sewing camp. She came by. That was awesome. Super random and awesome. Okay. So let's scroll through here and see. All right. Lisa Clark, you are the winner of the live giveaway. So Lisa, if you don't know how my giveaways work, everybody, this is how it works. You're the winner. I say your name. And then you get to send an email to bea@craftygemini.com and say, hi, my name is Lisa Clark. I won the Trixie Pouch mini kit giveaway in the live stream today. And then don't forget to send us your mailing address so we can send it to you. For those of you that are new to my clubs and live chats, and maybe you live outside of the United States, you might be wondering, I wonder if these giveaways are only for US people. Nope. They're for worldwide. They're for any of my club members. So it doesn't matter where you live. I have definitely shipped giveaway prizes before to like Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, Canada. We have people from a ton of different countries. And so we ship them out ourselves. So it doesn't really matter what it costs us. We're going to get your prize sent out to you. Okay. So Lisa Clark, you're the winner of this. And a name to be determined is going to be the winner of the other one. So I will post the winners on the Facebook group page. And then, of course, I'll just post it on the main site page also. So whoever, and I'll contact by email the other winner so that they know that they won the giveaway. Yeah, Nikki says she won a pack once and she lives in Australia. Awesome. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We were here for almost an hour already today. So super cool. I'm looking forward to next week. And don't forget, Tuesday night, my time-ish, the video course for the Everyday Tote is going to go up. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about using fabrics that are not just quilting cottons to make your bags. So definitely stay tuned for that. And make sure that you log into your club account whenever you want to, ever so often, to make sure, you know, you're catching up. Remember, there's going to be a new video course posted every single Tuesday. So this Tuesday is the 3rd one. And we're going all the way to the end of November. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything else here. All right, for those of you that are wanting to make the woven panels, we do have the Wefty needles back in stock in our online shop, craftygemini.com/shop. You'll find the Wefties there. Just do a search for Wefty, or you can find it on the page under Tools and Notions. Those will be there. For those of you that were members of my organizer club this year, but earlier in the year. Some of you are wanting to go to the Crafty Gemini Club's website to log in. Earlier this summer, we sent out emails, and I let you all know through the Facebook page also that we merged everybody's club accounts to the main website. All your club content, all your individual video courses, and any clubs that you've ever joined, they're all on craftygemini.com. That's where you want to make sure that you're logging into to access any of the video courses and PDFs of everything that you've signed up for on our site, okay? So everything is there. And I think that's it, y'all. Aloha, Tammy. Super cool. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and I will see you next week for another live chat. Bye.